Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas. And I have a real treat for you today. My guest is an author, an activist. He has done a lot of different things. He is We're coming together consciously as inspired visionary leaders, and we're shining our light and awakening the light within every one of us and through us, expanding outwardly. We're awakening the whole collective consciousness of the human race. Now, when we talk about Dan, and he'll explain it a little more, he's been in media, he's been a reporter, he's been a broadcaster, and been and managing editor. He's done a lot of different things in the media, but he's moved away from that and into helping humanity. So let me bring him on. Hi, Dan. So happy to have you here.
Hi, Gail. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for everyone joining us. This is important work that we're doing here together.
Yes, it is. It's very important because one of the things that we need to do is to bring humanity together, to unify. And you're doing a lot of work in that regard, aren't you, Dan?
I am. I
Or
got
attempting
chills.
to.
We, I have the clear sense, Gail, and everyone watching us. I like to talk with you watching us at home, because I have the clear sense that there's something deeper than we are currently aware is happening. You're here for a very important reason. You were drawn here, you were led here, guided here, taken here, inspired to be here, because this is about your awakening. You, my friend watching us, are an inspired visionary leader. You are meant to be of service. There's so much more for you. And I think you have that knowing, you have that inkling, that hit within you. And you just know that there's something important here for you to do. And to me, this literally is the message for humanity. And what I want you to do is to allow this to be what inspires you to shine your light fully. This is the time where you're not playing small anymore. You're fulfilling your reason for being, what I call your divine duty, destiny, and dharma, 4Ds. Are you willing to play full out here? Are you willing to make this the turning point of your life? That's what's at stake here. And by you doing that yourself, you're inviting and inspiring everyone connected with you to do that as well. Are you okay with us how
Excellent.
we're doing
Yeah.
this?
Well, I think it's wonderful. Yes. Keep going, Dan. Keep
Okay.
going.
So I got chills again. So my sense is that the divine is working through you watching this, and this is meant to be it's almost like your homecoming. So I want you to take a deep connective breath, come back into yourself, into your awareness, into your presence of being, and to really feel that connection with the divine, with your purpose, with yourself, with your family, your reason for being. And okay, so just as a little background, I've taught Think and Grow Rich at the master's level since 2003. In Think and Grow Rich, the author Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind alliance, where anytime two or more people who are like minded come together in a spirit of harmony and cooperation, 1 plus 1 is not 2, 1 plus 1 is 11. And so, with Gail and you and I and every one of us, if you can imagine 1 plus 1 equals 11, plus 1 is 111, plus 1 is 1,111, plus 1 more. So, in other words, all of us, we are awakening the consciousness of the human race. We are doing that right here. I got chills again. This is
I'm
the
getting them
work.
too. I'm getting them
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I mean, this is however you see the divine, creator, God, the universe, the cosmos. whatever it is, it's flowing right here. I mean, so I want you to be aware of that consciously. I want you to open yourself as the instrument for the divine to work miracles through your life in creation, because that's really the work here. So, what we're talking about here is you empowering yourself, you shining your light. And the metaphor for that is the sun. Wherever you are, look at the sun or picture where the sun is and shine as brightly as the sun, because that's what your life is meant to be. And you have so much more power than you can even connect or imagine. I call it you're powerful beyond measure. And by you connecting with that, are you getting that sense of, is there like triggers going off like, wow, he's absolutely right. There was so much more for me. I always knew I had an important purpose, important that thing waiting for me, and now you're allowing it. You're bringing it to the surface, and you're allowing that to express fully. Shine brightly like the sun. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Joan. And thank
So
you, proud Texas lady. Thank you.
this
And
is the
Mary too.
moment.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes,
This
it
is
is a
the
moment. Exciting. It's exciting. I mean, I'm getting chills myself too. So, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. So carry on.
I mean, this is all in flow here. So, everyone watching this, I'm speaking directly to your heart. I'm speaking directly to what's inside of you. You're here for a very important reason. Okay, chills again. See, we're all here to be of service to each other. And what I want you to recognize is there is no playing small, because this is your stage. This is your grand entrance to fulfilling your potential, having the impact you're meant to have. And your level of focus on this, on being the person who does all the right things to have everything you desire, which are meant to be yours, because that seed within you was given directly by the divine, and you're meant to experience its fulfillment. And by you giving that your attention, that's how you're living that fulfillment. And your happiness, joy, fulfillment, well being, peace of mind, success, prosperity, they're all directly related to the impact you are having on others, to how much of a gift your life is to everyone else in our human family. And that's what we are here to make our focus. That's the ultimate message, because hear this: everything in your life is a direct result of what you have carefully chosen to make your priority. And so, what I want you to do right here is to get excited, get inspired. Like maybe you're on fire. You're on fire. That's what we're here to do, is to reignite you, to light that fire within your spirit, within your heart, within your soul, your presence, your being. And for that, for you to allow that, to allow yourself to shine as brightly as the sun. And you can, I got chills again, you can feel that, how powerful you are. And this is so aligned with your purpose, your reason for being. So give this your full attention. That's what's giving it fuel and allowing that fire that is your life. It's your purpose, your reason for being, to give that your light. And that's what you are then shining. And that's how powerfully we are all creating. And this is the time for us to give that our focus, because this is your time where the world needs you shining your light and being that inspired visionary leader you were born to be. So, right now, even here, I'm going to ask that you become very active and involved with this. So, post on your social media and get everyone connected with you online, watching this video and doing this themselves, shining their light, playing full out, and aligning with their divine duty, destiny, and dharma. Will you do that? Will you say, hey, I'm watching this program and this is the message to humanity? This is important for every one of us to take to heart and to blow this out there, because you see, we're changing the focus we're shining our light. And you know how one small candle dispels a whole room of darkness? You, my friend, are no small candle. You're shining as brightly as the sun. You're giving everyone permission to shine their light. And that dispels all the darkness, which is ignorance, fear, limitation, scarcity, lack. All of that is just, you know, how, you know, like the light coming in or the light coming out is only obstructed. I mean, darkness is just an obstruction of the light caused by ignorance, right? So we're removing that ignorance and we're just shining fully. That's what I'm asking you to do now. So bring everyone into this conversation, give them the link to this video, and get them involved, because remember, everything that is your contribution to others, your gift to the world, is directly dependent upon the impact you're having on others. And we are all here to be of service. And this is the Great Awakening, which means awakening from the sleep, the perception of darkness. And this is our time to do that. So invite everyone into this conversation. There's nothing more important. This truly is the message for humanity, and it's getting out there through you. Thank you very much for aligning with this.
This is so nice, because one of the things that we've been saying to people is do the work, and you're giving them a very easy way to do the work just by sharing this message, because it is the message to humanity. We are very powerful beings. We just don't know it because we were never programmed that way. Everything that we were programmed has been to keep us down, to suppress our abilities, to make us feel like we're nobody, we're nothing, we're, all those things. And actually, when you go into meditation and you do that, become nobody, nothing, nowhere, no time, all of that, that's when you enter the, some people call it the void. And that's when you're really able to connect with our infinite creator, I call.
That's so true. I love that. Okay, so let's, two important points here. Okay, so where you give your attention is where you're giving your power, and that becomes how you are creating your life, and through that, how we are creating our world. I mean, if you think of yourself as a broadcasting station,
There you go. There you
and
go. Yeah.
the more work you do on yourself, the more frequency you are adding to that transmission, to the size and scope and reach of your broadcast. Okay, so every one of us watching this, we are broadcasting this out there. You are shining your light so much more brightly than before you started watching Free Range, right? I mean, you can feel that, you know that, you're connected with that, because we are all interconnected. And by the way, I mean, we are a mastermind alliance right now. And this, you could think of it like we are all, like you are an individual cell in the body of Gaia, Gail of Gaia, Mother Earth. And we're all coming together now in collective consciousness, and we're shining our light. Where, like, I use the example of, like, if I'm 50,000 watts and you're 50,000 watts, and all of us coming together now, instead of like my 50,000 watts added to your 50,000 watts, added to your 70,000 watts, added to your 100,000, now we have 1.1 million watts, and the light is so much more brighter, and we're influencing collective consciousness, which is what we are all here to do. So we could, okay, so yes, to go back to your point, Gail, about we weren't taught this stuff. We were, in fact, like, they call it a smartphone, and that's in,
It's
I look
dumb,
at
isn't
that,
it?
it's what?
I said it's really a dumb phone. No.
I look at it as
No.
smart in contrast to its user.
Mhm.
So, in other words, like the people using these, this is their greatest source of disconnection.
Yes,
And
that's
so
what I
it
meant.
teaches us to look outside of ourselves for the answers. This is where, so in other words, like you're centered, you're in your power, you're standing within your power, you're owning your power, and you're commanding your destiny. Then you get a notification. Oh, who's contacted me? What is it? And then, oh, all of a sudden you're not in your center anymore. You're way over here, and that's out of balance and out of harmony, and you're disconnected then from yourself. So it's paramount, it's imperative to retain your center, because that is your place of power. That is where you are creating your life every moment, and that's how you're meant to live. So mastering where you are giving your attention, that's the fundamental lesson, because that's where you're empowering. And so, like you were saying before about we're not taught how we create anything.
Mhm.
We're taught to more like
Go
be,
outside ourselves.
yeah, outside ourselves. That, I mean, like, how many times, like my mom is an example, she says, like, hi, it's just me. Well, no. Hi, it's me. I'm here to add light to your life by connecting with you and by reminding you of your power. There is no just me. You are a very important person. You're here for a very specific reason, to be of service to everyone connected with you. This is your duty, your destiny, your dharma. It's why you're here. So you're a gift. And the more you recognize that, the more you acknowledge your power. One of my favorite quotes is from Marianne Williamson. She said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. So my purpose is to help you recognize that powerful beyond measure. And you can't measure that. So the more you recognize your power, the more you're dedicated and focused on fulfilling your reason for being, then you see, like, wow, I could do this and this and this and this and this. And you grow so much more, and you become so much more, and you see, wow, I can do that. What else can I do? And there's no limit to that. And that's how we push society, the collective consciousness, the whole human race forward. And that's our destiny, to live that adventure of seeing just how unlimited, powerful beyond measure truly is.
Yes. Infinite possibilities within the unified field, which is where we can go with our consciousness and grasp whatever it is in there that we need, when we can get ourselves quiet, when we can um, focus on our inner self, our inner power, and so on. And then we can actually, we will get what some people call downloads, or all of a sudden, all these synchronicities start happening. That's when you know you're on your path. When you start having synchronicities showing up here, there, and everywhere. Or the numbers sometimes too is another way that your guides are trying to speak to you. Like you might see 444 or 111, or those different kinds of things. Or a bird may land in a very unusual place. Or something of that nature. I mean, the possibilities are, as I said, infinite, and we are so capable, but we have been led to believe that we're, wicked sinners, you name it, and we're not. Um, we're very powerful, wonderful beings that were made by a creator, that out of love. And that's where we were created. That's what we were created for. And that's why we need to connect with others in a loving, respectful, and kind way.
Well said, Gail. That reminded me of the other point that came to mind, as you were saying, we're not taught how to do this, and we're programmed to be in division, scarcity, lack, fear.
Yep.
What I want, okay, I feel like everyone watching your show is sympathetic to this, to what we're talking about here. And my sense is that the other side of this coin, in other words, like we in the consciousness community, we know the direction that we are headed, and we know how we need to shift that focus. And I want every one of us to recognize that we have all the power.
That is so true. And yet I just feel that people have a little bit of trouble actually believing that, but any way that we can help reinforce that within you, you are very powerful. You just have been suppressed for so long that you forgot how powerful you really are. And but if you keep working at it, and once we, like, you can affect everybody around you, and when you do that, it spreads exponentially. And once humanity unites and stops falling for all the divisions that we're constantly exposed to, oh my goodness, we could move mountains. Christ even told people that. But we have to believe it. We have to believe in ourselves. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to express to you, because I'm so happy that you're here, because just being here, like Dan was saying, you're doing the work by being here, because you're learning new things, and you're hopefully taking it in and considering it, like, wow, okay, that kind of thing. And then you can be surprised all the different things you might come up with that you could do and keep doing to affect the entire collective consciousness in a very positive way.
We are all interconnected. As they say, a rising tide raises all boats. So you have the power to do this right now. You can shift, you can throw yourself completely into, I would say, your passion, your purpose, your reason for being. And if you don't know what that is, well, then work on becoming clear. And like you were saying earlier, Gail, there is, I would interpret what you said, or it comes back to me from the standpoint of the universe is always supporting you in having more impact on more people. When you're doing well, then you are finding yourself able to do even more. That reminds me, one time I wrote a book called Outgiving the Universe, which is based on a quote I heard from Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations of
Oh
God,
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah. I
God.
remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, you cannot outgive the universe, because the more you give, the more opportunities you will find you have to give even more. So I thought it would be fun to test that. By me giving as much as I can, by me giving everything I have, then just put that to the test. See how much more you are supported and how much more you can still give, because that is in alignment with your reason for being, which is to be of greater service to more people, or more, whatever your purpose is. If you're saving the whales, or, helping the planet or plants and soil, and, whatever your focus is, the more of a difference, the more of a contribution you make, the more of a gift you are, the more you are able then to give even that much more. That's also your powerful beyond measure.
Yes. And standing up for your freedoms. We are Americans, and we stand for freedom. Everybody wants to come to this country because we were freer than any of the other countries. And if we don't step up, we're going to lose it. But I don't believe that for 1 minute. We're going to keep it, because people are standing up. I see people standing up to their school boards and standing up to their politicians. And the more of it, I go, yes, 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 do more, do more. So if there's any way that you're able to do that, make your voice heard at the local level, because it spreads out.
It goes back to shining your light.
Exactly.
I was just getting the visual as you were saying that, Gail, of, remember when they had the mandate to get the shot, and everybody, I mean, a lot of people got frightened by that. And
Well, they operate off of fear all the time.
that's it. Because where you're giving your attention is what you're feeding. And so many people, I mean, I look at this whole last, since 2020, since January 2020, that was our contrast, where we had to go through something that was painful for every one of us to see how what we give our attention and empower with strong feelings becomes what we are feeding and making stronger, because you have the power right now to transform the whole planet like that. And now, because every one of us can remember, like, oh, wow, yeah, I was really scared for a while. I was afraid that my business was going to close down. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to feed my family, that I might lose my home. I know because I gave that thought, I gave that my power, and then I caused tremendous pain as a result of that. And we were all doing that, or almost everyone was doing that. And so we know what it's like to use this power that you have to the opposite, for the opposite purpose. In other words, empowering what you don't want. Now is the time to turn that around and use you're a master of manifestation. That's what I want you to really understand, and exercise and implement that. Take that to heart and use that power. So that's why you throw yourself passionately into your purpose, and you give that all of your power. You become single minded, and you allow that to be what you are fueling. And that reminds me of a gift that I want to give everyone. We can talk about that at the end of the show if you want.
Oh, sure. Just don't let me forget.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so at the end of the show, I want to give you a gift. I created a video just this morning, and I want to share it with everyone who's interested in receiving that. It's the Purpose Prosperity Index. So I will walk you through how that works. So, in other words, okay, this is really Think and Grow Rich, or As a Man Thinketh, So Shall He Be, or karma. All of these things are the same thing. You go where you look. Now okay, you've seen the contrast over the last 2+ years. Okay, I was afraid of this whole time, and I gave tremendous power to what I didn't want, and my life became, well, how quickly our society deteriorated. Now you see what happens when you use the power you have to create what you don't want, by making that seem almighty, all powerful. And now we're creating our lives and our world the way we are meant to use our powerful beyond measure, by giving all of our power to our goals, desires, and dreams, to our divine duty, destiny, and dharma, to honoring our reason for being, which is being of service to each other. So we're coming back together again, and we're honoring that calling within us. We're singing that song within our heart, and we're having the impact we were born to have. This is why we are all on the planet right now. It's to do this work, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to throw ourselves into that creation. That's the focus that I want every one of us to take to heart, and to begin living that unique way you are meant to be of service.
Yes, that's wonderful. And once everybody starts doing that, I mean, the transformation on this planet could happen, boom, like that. Once everybody gets on board with stop focusing on the negative stuff that we don't want. Even talking about it gives it more energy. It's important. You want to be aware of what's going on. I mean, because awareness and knowledge is part of the what helps you to see more. Would you agree with that?
I'm kind of on in the middle on that. What I
Oh,
mean
okay.
by
What do you?
that is, okay, so I mean, like, I'll give you an example. I have a friend, and she forwards all kinds of videos to me about all of the stuff happening in the world today. This
Mhm,
is another thing they're doing to us. This is what's happening now. She's feeding what she doesn't want. And
mhm.
she's feeling kind of like, I mean, I've talked with her about this, and she believes that you have to be aware of it. And by her sharing what's happening, then people can recognize it, and then they can stop it. One of my key tenets is be mindful of what you consume. And this kind of comes from my favorite quote, which is from Star Wars Episode 1, where Obi-Wan Kenobi says to young Anakin, who became Darth Vader, by giving his power to the dark side, Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "Be mindful of your thoughts, young Anakin, for they betray you." So this goes back to where you give your attention is where you're giving your power. So I call it the law of attraction razor thin line. In other words, you want to keep your focus on well, this is how I teach it. You want to give your attention only to what gives you joy, inspires you, and moves you closer to your goals, desires, and dreams. Because when that is 100% of your focus, that's 100% of your life experience. So, from that standpoint, I mean, this is really what I think is the message of our time, because people in the consciousness community who are aware of what's happening, they know that these forces are out there. And yet, if we believe that these forces have power over us, then what are we doing? We're giving our power to those forces.
Exactly. You're right. You're right. Very much something to definitely consider.
So by us shining our light, that's how, and giving our light to our purpose, by throwing ourselves into getting back to the business of fulfilling our goals, desires, and dreams, and singing that song within our hearts, which is uniquely ours to sing, by making that 100% of our focus, that's how we're creating that. And that's across the political spectrum. Every one of us is here to do that. And then by you being that inspired visionary leader of everyone you can reach, by, for example, saying, "Hey, I'm watching the show. That's really inspiring. Watch it here and then give the link to this video." That's how this message is spreading across the board. And all of us are doing that. I mean, Gail, you and I talked earlier about, like, this one person who is supposed to be an insider, like he's part of secret society and he's like they're doing good work in the world. And he says that he only needs 100 people for 30 days, just using the power that every one of us has, and the 101 people or 100 people will change things just like that. I mean, that's kind of giving you a sense of the power that you have by you taking this to heart, by you shining your light, by you controlling your focus and giving your power only to what gives you joy and inspires you and moves you closer to having the full impact you were born to have. That is the work. That is the message. And that's my purpose, is to help you do that, to control your focus and to not empower what you don't want, to not give any power to what you see as wrong in the world or as the direction you see us going. Just stand within your power, remove yourself from that program. I mean, I think of this as a virus in the collective consciousness, and the way out of that is by shining our light and giving it none of our attention, because it's just darkness. And I don't see darkness as evil, I see it as ignorance.
Yes, yes. Actually, a lot of people have that same definition. Light is knowledge, dark is lack of knowledge. And
Exactly.
how based on what you just said, how are people to be aware of some of the negative things that are happening so that they don't hurt themselves by following the narrative? So like you said, I guess that's a real fine line there, by having the knowledge but yet not focusing on it or over focusing on it. I don't know. What do you got any advice in that regard?
I do. So just be aware that what you are giving your attention, you're giving your power based on the level of emotion or feeling you have around what you are giving your attention.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's important too. Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
think of it like a rocket. You're launching the rocket based on the level of fuel you're giving it and how much you are strongly feeling about what you are focusing your attention on.
Mhm.
That depends on how much fuel you're giving that. So If you give it no fuel, then you're not giving it any power. So, like, I can see whatever example, I don't want to empower anything by even mentioning it in the world. If I don't like what's happening, I can just pull my power away from that and say, oh, okay. Like, if I just look at, like, this is a piece of paper. But if I think, wow, this is my death sentence, there's like different levels. It's about detachment.
Mhm.
So what you're okay, so when you're focusing on something, like if someone's sending you all kinds of videos about what's happening in the world, you could just say, I read headlines and I can see, like, if it's from the mainstream media, well, I can see by my own observation that the mainstream media is extremist, they're globalist, they are promoting I call it the narrative of hatred, fear, violence, and division. And okay, so I can recognize not to give any power to this source, which means most of the mainstream media and social media and tech companies. So I can be aware to not entertain them. Because, oh yeah, big part of my work is to be mindful of my environment. So keep in the company of sages, wisdom, truth, empowerment, inspiration. And you can do that with books like biographies or autobiographies, like on Einstein or the sages from old, or, empowerment coaches, authors, inspirational leaders. You can be in the company of them, and that's what you give your attention. That's what you feed your power. You consume that, and then you stay in that high place where you're consciously choosing what you are creating. And then you become detached. And then so when you see this message, like, that says, this is going to happen, well, that's just kind of like putting something out there. And if everybody latches onto it, then they're creating that, they're feeding it their power. And yet that's still darkness. And darkness, there's no way to, like, if you have darkness, it doesn't remove light. No, it's the opposite. You know that. Everyone knows that. It's light removes darkness. You're the light. So just stay as the light and don't empower what you don't want. I don't know if I could go into that deeper, if that
No,
doesn't make
and you're
sense.
certainly are free to do so. And I would just like to add one of the things that I've had a lot of shows, and I presented people with a lot of information about some of the things out there that they really would want to stay away from. So I have decided that I've put out a lot of that kind of information already, and what I want to do is move into this exact type of information to empower people, not to um, allow any wallowing in negativity because of what they're doing. Let's face it, they're not going to do anything to help humanity. They're doing everything they can to not do that. So we want to do everything that we can to keep shining our light and doing unto others as we would want them to do to us, or be in some type of service to others, especially those close to you and the people that are trying to help by planting seeds and so on. But there are places, Jay thought, that are more difficult than others, but you just keep plugging away at it. That's all. You'll be surprised. People come around eventually.
We're all connected. So by you doing this yourself, by you holding your focus and empowering that with strong feelings, by you dedicating yourself single-mindedly to fulfilling your purpose and having the impact you're meant to have, you're shining your light, you're being of service to everyone you are meant to serve, you're impacting them, you're inspiring them, you're giving them the permission, even though we don't need permission because this is how we're wired, it's why we're
Mhm.
here. And yet you're you're the guiding light for them. It's like you're the beacon shining over the rocks like the lighthouse, and you're showing them where to avoid so that they don't crash anymore. I mean,
Mhm.
it's us coming together as the human family and treating each other with respect and love and being of service to each other, not fall. I mean, you know what? Okay, let's just back up a minute, if we may. Let's talk about what fear is. I look at fear, God chills again, as a reflection of my perception of being disconnected. There is no disconnection. And when you recognize that, when you reconnect consciously, that's your source of strength and power. That's kind of like being plugged in to the light, and you realize there was never any darkness. I mean, you could say, well, yeah, but what was this time? Well, it was the time for us to recognize and remember the power that we have, and that we have all the power, and to begin using that power to create, honor, fulfill our reason for being, which is being service to each other.
Yes. And actually, as we were talking earlier about how, the lockdowns and so on actually have had some benefit. In fact, an important benefit that you may not be recognizing altogether. I mean, it does have its dark side and light side, but the important part of the light side is it gave people the time to stop and think about their life and the direction that they're going and what's happening and so on. You want to elaborate on that a little bit, Dan? We did talk about that early. It's important.
It is. This is the Great Awakening. So I look at this as we had to fall asleep and forget who we are and how powerful we are, so that we would have the contrast. We seem to need to have contrast, at least most of us. So, for example, if it was always roses and butterflies, that wouldn't interest us. We would get bored very quickly, most people. And so we need to have the dark so we can appreciate the light. So, and the dark doesn't have to mean evil, it can mean quiet or silence or stillness. And that's what we had. I mean, like I remember back in Sedona, I was staying at Los Abrigados, which is a resort on 179, which sometimes it might take 30 minutes to go one. Well, I think I tested it one time. It was like 18 minutes to go 1 mile because there was so much traffic there. But during this lockdown time, I was able to walk across the street without looking in either direction because there was no cars there. In other words, it was quiet. We
Mhm.
really had the opportunity to I call it give in and go within, to be still and to go back within ourselves and to see what we value and what's most important to us. I mean, like, businesses were closed, schools were closed. So families came back together in the home. The four, family members were there, and they got to see what it's like to get to know each other again and to reconnect. And that creates another interesting dynamic for them, because then they can, hey, wow, I really do value you. I appreciate you. Or maybe they didn't get the lesson and then they got another opportunity to learn it somewhere. This reminds me of an important lesson, if I may share this, Gail. It's called the whisper, shout, slap technique of spirit, is how I learned it.
Okay, that sounds funny. Please explain.
I love this. It was given to me by Ron McLean. He was a tour guide. He was leading tours to the Hopi Nation. And
Oh, wow.
he shared this. This was back around 2001, I think, or 2000. And he was saying that, okay, so the whisper, shout, slap technique, when you're meant to learn an important lesson, first it's kind of like you're too attached to your job. You're not honoring your spouse enough, or you're not giving enough time for your children. Okay, so it's a small warning at first of something out of harmony in your life. And if you miss the whisper because you're too focused on your smartphone and you're too disconnected from yourself, from your family, from your purpose, from the divine, then the volume has to be raised on that need for you to create that harmony, for you to restore balance in your life. So that's the shout. So that might be your romantic partner saying, "You never give me enough time. We don't do anything anymore. You're always too busy on your computer or your phone, or you're not present anymore." That could be the whisper, or it could be the shout. And maybe the shout would be, "I'm going to stay at my mom's house and I'm going to take the kids with me." That might be the shout. And if that person is so lost in the distraction, maybe that wouldn't be enough to hear it yet. And it might take filing divorce papers before, oh, I guess this is serious. Now I have to deal with this too.
Time to pay attention. No.
Yeah, exactly. Or it might take someone being so unnerved or stressed, like in fight or flight mode or whatever, that they hit a tree or something. They slide off the whatever, they have an accident. That's like the slap technique. If you miss all of the previous messages that are important for you to realign, to reconnect, to refocus on what's most important, then that change will be forced upon you. And then it's a lot more disharmonious. It's a lot more disruptive and a lot more painful as well.
Yeah.
The message will be conveyed one way or the other when it's imperative for you to recognize something. Like it's called riding the horse in the direction it's going. It's really aligning with your dharma. You are here for a very specific purpose, and that is to be of service to others. And if you miss the messages that are meant to subtly convey that to you, then it'll get louder and louder and louder and louder until dharma has its way, and then it's a lot more difficult to get up from that. That's the whisper shout slap technique that I really think
Yeah,
is very
I think
important.
I think I've been there. I've experienced all of them
Mhm.
at one time or another in my life. But anyway, this is I just put this question up because I thought maybe you might like to address it. Somebody says, "Is light work or burnout a real thing?
Hmm.
Sometimes humanity sucks, and being a worker becomes a drag."
Oh, that's a really interesting question.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to what I shared earlier, that the universe supports you in having the impact you're meant to have with your life. So if you're not being supported in being able to do what you are here to do easily, smoothly, joyfully, harmoniously, then I wonder if there's some kind of a block there. I wonder whether maybe something in your environment, or I would guess, I'm inferring here that maybe you had a limiting belief that you learned as a child. Maybe, I mean, how many Well, okay, like my dad was a math professor, and he used to say money is a necessary evil. So if I believed that, which for a long time I did unconsciously, like I thought I'm a spiritual person, so if I want to make money, then how can I be spiritual? So I was sabotaging myself. So I
Been
mean,
there, done that.
yeah,
I know about that one. I think a lot of that comes from religious programming too, at least in my life anyway.
yeah, it
It
does.
is.
It's a limiting belief imposed. It's part of the what I call the narrative of hatred, division, fear, and violence, which
Definitely.
means people not believing in themselves. I mean, that
Yes.
whole belief, like they misquote that and say that money is the root of all evil. Well, it's love of money is the root of all evil. And so when people become materialistic and they forget about their heart and their spirit and being of service, and they focus on the money, then that's like another one of those out of alignment ways of being out of alignment. And when you focus on being of service and honoring your purpose and having that be your focus, then the universe supports you. So I guess going back to that question about light work or burnout, to me, that's when you do something that is aligned with your purpose, your desire, your reason for being, that feels joyful and it gives you energy. It doesn't take energy from you. So if it feels like it's cumbersome or you're getting burned out, that to me implies that maybe you're attached to the outcome. Maybe you're doing it for praise or acknowledgement, someone to acknowledge you're doing well and not to be of service. I mean, like the idea that a rose is fragrant and beautiful because that is its nature. It that's how when the rose is just being itself, it is fragrant and beautiful, and it doesn't need anyone saying, "Oh, you're so pretty. I love you." No, that's its nature. So when you're just being yourself, that's what the universe supports. And if you're not, then it will be more of a drain. And that just tells me that I would ask you to think about, why are you doing the work you're doing? Is it because you want to be acknowledged or loved? And then look at that. And then let's look at that and go into the deeper issue. Like, okay, yeah, that's true. I was looking for praise. I was looking for people to love me, to say I'm a valuable person. And then, okay, so really the issue is self-love. So, okay, why was I not feeling like I am my own source of inspiration, love? How, acknowledge yourself. Okay, I'm just doing what I'm here to do. That feels good. It is its own reward. I don't really need anyone else to value me or say that I'm okay or believe in me or anything,
I
because I
think
have
those
that
seeds get
myself.
planted. Yeah, I think those seeds get planted, like Jay Thought was saying here, in dysfunctional families, and sometimes it comes from society too. But and you're absolutely right. The goal is to recognize these things and to either delete them entirely or somehow repair them. And this is when you know you're starting to advance, when you're starting to recognize the programs that you're in, when you're triggered, where you need to step back and go, why did that bother me so much? Why did I jump down that guy's throat? That kind of thing. And you go, whoa, there's something here that I need to take a real close look at and um, and fix, shall we say?
One of my key tenets is that everything that happens to me is for my betterment. So, what I like to do is ask two questions. The first one is, why did I create this? If something happens that I would not have preferred, why did I create that? So that's me taking responsibility for it. I'm taking ownership. I am the one who created this. It's nothing outside of me. That means I have the power to change it. I can shift it. And because I know that everything that happens to me is for my betterment, what lessons is this meant to teach me? That's the second question. So, okay, so if I have this light worker burnout, okay, why am I so tired? Why does this seem so difficult for me? Why do I feel like I'm stressed and this is too much for me? Okay, do I have attachment? Was I just looking for acknowledgement rather than being of service? Was I, did I think that I was the doer instead of that I'm being used as the hand of God, for example, or the instrument of the divine? So you go deeper within, what is really happening here? Why did I create this? What lessons is it meant to teach me? Okay, like I wasn't feeling loved. Well, that's interesting. Why was I not feeling loved? Was it because I bought into this old program, or I was trying to please my mom, or I was looking for some acknowledgement from outside myself? That just means I wasn't connected. So then do what I do, which is the practice. It's called feel and enter the breath. Okay. So I turn back, I give in and go within. Okay, so I just kind of center myself, reconnect with myself, take a deep breath, feel and enter the breath. And now I'm calm, and now I can see, wow, I was attached to that outcome. I had expectations for this to have some impact, and it didn't have an impact. Well, that's because I was scattered in my focus. I was diluting my power. I wasn't focused on my reason for being. I wasn't giving purely from the heart, unconditionally. That's what I mean about going within and being clear on the deeper levels underneath whatever you think is happening. It's usually deeper than that, and it is for your betterment.
Mhm. That's sometimes that's hard to face or believe at times. It really is. Um, and I've always found when I feel like I'm getting out of balance that I go into nature or somewhere where I can be by myself, and it has a very healing effect. So if you have it's just going outside and sitting on the, of course, if it's snowing, you can't do that so well. But even the snow can be beautiful. Even it can, be strike awe in your um, in your being. And I don't. I love nature. It helps me as much as meditation, really, in so many ways. So I like to give that as a means to do. Um, the other thing, Dan, is you wrote a book called Reigniting America. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, these are the actions that every one of us can take to re empower ourselves. It's kind of going back to what we've been talking about already, like lighting that fire under us and remembering that we have all the power. Like I talk about in Reignited America, the fact that their greatest fear is that we recognize how
Are
powerful we
powerful.
truly are. So it's really about re empowering your passion, your purpose, and the impact you're meant to have. So it all goes back to that. This is the great awakening. I mean, we're awakening from this deep sleep where we were in, well, I would say slumber instead of the darkness. And now we're awakening to the light we are meant to be. So that book is specifically about opening yourself as the hand or the instrument for God to work. I mean, I don't like to use, his, but for the creator to work miracles in the world, because we're all here to be, I mean, every one of us is, as I see it, the expression of the divine experiencing itself, experience its divinity. That's what we're all here to do, to shine our light. I mean, like in Reignited America, I like to quote, this is what reminded me of what you were talking about earlier, Gail, like that Jesus said, "These things that I have done, you will do yourself, and so much more." It's kind of
Yes.
bringing us back to "you're powerful beyond measure." And what I challenge you to do is to start discovering how much more powerful you are, what all these things that you can do yourself that you had no recognition of, even as a remote possibility, and just to continue to see and expand what's possible for you. I would recommend you even make that your lifestyle, like what you're doing every day, stepping beyond your comfort zone and expanding and becoming more and having more impact on more people, because that is your source of happiness, joy, fulfillment, well being, peace of mind, prosperity, success. And you'll see so much more is available to you than you could have ever recognized before you took action and made it happen for yourself.
That's awesome. Um, it's really a time in our lives that we should be absolutely joyful and happy to be here to witness. Everything is going to change, and it's it's going to all be for the better. It really is. We just have to believe it and get that into the collective. Um,
This this reminds me
yeah.
of what came to mind as the example before about when this mandate was upon us, we had to get these shots. Otherwise, we would lose our jobs, and all these people lost their jobs. And this was kind of like a heavy thing. And I mean, we knew it was illegal and unconscionable and all this, and yet it was still out there for whatever, I don't know, 3 or 4 months or something, maybe longer
Yeah.
before it was struck down. And now, today, there, this whole like whatever it's called, the Disinformation Bureau,
Oh
where
yeah.
yeah,
They try to call it the truth, but everything they do is the opposite of what they say.
yeah. So they were doing this again, and yet instead of like 3 or 4 months it took to get rid of the other thing, yeah, the Ministry of Truth, thank you.
Yeah.
The It took 3 or 4 months of this hanging over our shoulders before for the shot, and now this Ministry of Truth thing, which was just total propaganda, and that was only out there for a period of a few days, and then they took that away, or we shot that down. By In other words, it's happening so much more quickly that the us standing in our power, I mean, I look at it as every day millions of more people are awakening, they're pulling themselves out, they're shining their light. And this, I mean, if you think of it like water, and each rock that we throw into the water is creating its waves, or each thought you are empowering with your strong feelings, like, hey, I'm shining my light, I'm here to dispel the darkness, and I'm throwing myself into my purpose and honoring my reason for being and actualizing my powerful beyond measure. You're shining that light, or you're dropping that boulder into the water, and it's creating that ripple that's so powerful. And then by all of us doing that, 1 plus 1 is not two, it's 11. And all of us watching this video coming together and doing this in our light, with our light, and all of us that we're adding to that tsunami, and that's going out there so much further, and that this is how we're moving worlds together, and it just takes one person. Another one of my websites is consciousnesskeepers.com. So as a consciousness keeper, you're holding the frequency of love, self-empowerment, unlimited power, and unity and harmony and opportunity and prosperity, and you're putting that out there, and you're the source of that for others, and that's just creating that ripple as well. And all of this, it just works together for the betterment of humanity.
Yes, and that's what we're all about. We want everything to be the way we really want it to be, and that's what we need to focus on. Love, light, harmony, peace, you name it. I'd much rather have that than what we've had to experience in the past from because of lack of knowledge and lack of what's really going on. But now we know, and now we can act by shining our light, just like you said.
And by remaining connected with ourselves and disconnecting from the narrative of hatred, division, fear, and violence. Don't give that any of your attention, and you're not giving it any of your power, because your mind can only have one dominant thought at a time, and it's generally fear or love. So by choosing love, that's what you're putting out there, and then you're excluding yourself from that division and that fear programming. It has no power other than the power anyone chooses to give it. So I saw that this was the need in the world now, is, I mean, because there's people on both sides, and we had been fighting each other, left,
Yeah.
right, red, blue, whatever, and yet that's the wrong focus. That's the distraction, the diversion, and so by both parties and both ends of the spectrum welcoming each other and embracing each other and working together, that's us taking back our power, and that's not falling into that distraction. And that's us shining our light. And well, that's what I recognized, was that each of us has our unique dharma to fulfill. And by us dedicating ourselves, throwing ourselves passionately into that, that's what we are empowering. And that's how we are dispelling the darkness. And that's how we're getting back to the beginning, to the business of fulfilling our goals, desires, and dreams, and making that our focus. Then that's what we are giving our power, and that's what we are creating. And that's getting us moving again, because we kind of had been falling asleep. And that's, now we're awake. Now we're waking to the full measure of our power. And then we're seeing how much more powerful we are than we can ever even imagine. And that's how we're moving society. And then all of this stuff, it just has no power. It just kind of falls away on its own. We don't need to think of it as the monster or the demon. We don't need to vilify it or anyone. We just focus on what we are here to do, and everything else becomes unimportant and less powerful. It just falls on its own.
Oh, okay. That's excellent. Lots of grounding helps you maintain frame, and maintaining frame is what gives you the right words to advise others. Okay, that makes sense. Yes,
Do
I
you want
would
me to share
agree.
a story that this reminded me of?
Yes, sure. Please
Okay.
do.
So this was back in the time of King Arthur and Merlin the magician, and the Knights of the Round Table were celebrating. They were having dinner. They were all, happy and telling stories, and everybody was just very much having a fun time. And then all of a sudden, a witch walks into Camelot and is stirring up all of this stuff, and everybody's like afraid, like, oh, and what do we do now? Help us. And the witch is just kind of, stirring everything, like all the like a little tornado or something. And then they look to Merlin, and Merlin just says, everyone turn your backs to the witch. And they just turn their backs, and they're not feeding it. And then all of a sudden the witch just disappears because no one was empowering it. So we had given our attention to this stuff, which was a distraction to us. We forgot our purpose. We lost our connection with ourselves, with our families, with our neighbors, with our purpose, with the divine, with our community. We forgot who we are. We made the distractions so much more powerful. We forgot
Yes.
that our power is not outside of us. That's why this is about us coming back to our center and dedicating ourselves to our purpose and honoring our reason for being. It is that simple.
Speaking of this here, I remember when we didn't have these. I mean, that's showing my age. But one of the things that always happens now, and it's programming. It is definitely programming. What I think is, oh, but what if something happens? I got to have my phone with me. Well, there was a time when we didn't have these phones. So, and what would you do if say, for example, if your car broke down or something like that? You'd walk to the nearest house, or somebody would stop on the road and take you somewhere. It was connection with people, not just connection with this. And that's where you talk about being disconnected, because it's very easy to feel like you're connected because of this, but you're really not, because it's not the kind of relationships with yourself and others that you really need to work on, because our communities need to come together.
Well, this was part of what I call the narrative of hatred, division, fear, and violence, is to weaken the family.
Oh yeah.
That's the basic building block of society.
Yeah.
So this was meaningful to me, and I don't remember which course it was I was putting out there. One of my clients she was reflecting on when she grew up in Chicago. I'm guessing it might have been what might have been called the inner city of Chicago. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that like the parents would get together as the children were playing, and if one child was falling into, quote, the wrong crowd, then the parents would let that parent of the child know about that. They were looking out for each other.
Boy, does
And
that happen anymore? That's when we need to bring that back.
I mean, how many people even know their neighbors now? Because we allowed ourselves to become very weak and to weaken the family. So, I mean, that's within every one of us watching this. We can and talk about this, post about this on social media. Like, share your reflections when you were young, playing with the neighborhood kids, going fishing together, whatever you did, going to camp and all, even churches, how dominant. I mean, that was a big part of our lives a long time ago. And now, not so much. Now, children, I mean, I think, I don't know when it was, like, let's say the 1970s and 80s, maybe, the TV was kind of said to be the babysitter for the children. Just put them in front of the TV and watching the cartoons and whatever. And now it's, then it became video games. Well, let's go back to like sitting at the table and having dinner together and having an
Yes, thank you
interest.
for bringing that up. I thought about that earlier. That was one of the things that people were able to do once they were in a lockdown situation. You could actually have meals together, because when you have meals together, you talk together, you talk about things, and that's really, really important. And that's something that we've lost over time, because they have not only did they break up the family, but the mobility of people having to go different places in order to get jobs, in order to keep the bills paid, all those different things came into play, and they've interfered with um, our progression as a human spirit, or a body having a spiritual experience in this avatar, they call it.
Mm-hmm. That
um,
reminds me of this whole thing, like the metaverse,
oh my
like
God, that is scary, because they want you to put on these what do you call it? It's like,
virtual glasses.
yes, virtual. Thank you. I just couldn't get a word for it. But
Yeah.
anyway, what happens is it creates a reality in front of your eyes, and your body doesn't know the difference.
Mm.
And when your body doesn't know the difference, you're thinking that that's all wonderful, but it's not. Um, something to be very concerned about and to avoid, in my opinion. That is, of course, my opinion, but I just think it's dangerous.
Even the whole thing, like, what is a friend? Is that someone connected with you on a social media site? Is that really a friend? I mean, do you know that person? Have you looked at them in the eye? Well, I mean, that's kind of reminds me of like when the Christians were taking over the pagan holidays and then making them their own holidays because they
Yes.
wanted to take away the power that was important before the new models, shall we say. I'm not saying right or wrong, one or the other, but I mean, so now like a friend means somebody on Facebook. Is that really a friend? Or is that
Yes.
just a virtual thing, which is just a bunch of like zeros and ones without any connection between it? So, in other words, like tuning out the smartphone, getting out in your community around like-minded people, and if there are no groups, then create your own. As the inspired visionary leader you are born to be, which now you're throwing yourself passionately, exuberantly, mindfully, purposefully into that fulfillment. So you're the one creating that in your community. You're shining your light. You're inspiring others to disconnect from the false connection, and you're creating those meaningful connections. You're restoring the strength of the family in your home, at least. And you're talking about this, and you're taking your schools back as well. And you're reaching out to your neighbors You're having block parties in your neighborhood. You're having barbecues. You're working together. You're making the park safe again as a place for families to go. I mean, these are things every one of us are. It's important that we do this.
Very much so. There was something that you wanted to bring up towards the end of the show here, and we're up on an hour and 15 minutes already, believe it or not. and and if you excuse me for 1 minute, I want to turn another light on because my image here is getting kind of dark. So hang on just a minute. But if you want to start talking about that, feel free to do so. It'll just take me a second. I just got to go on the other side. I'll be right back.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me about that. Okay, this morning I like to take a walk every day, like Gail was talking about, going out into nature as a way to recharge and to come back to your center and
There, it just,
renew.
I forgot to turn that on and it just kept getting darker and darker. And I thought, wow, I better turn on the light.
That looks good. Yeah, that's a nice enhancement. So,
Okay.
well, during my daily walks, when I can, I shoot videos. Sometimes it's windy and whatever, other times. Anyway, this morning I created a video which I call the Purpose Prosperity Index. So everything comes down to what you are giving your attention. And that reminds me of a story that I would like to share from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. He said, the Creator, in his infinite wisdom, gave man absolute control over just one thing. Fortunately for him, that one thing is enough for him to have everything he desires. That one thing is what he chooses to give his attention. So this is kind of reinforcing everything we've been talking about here. How you hold your inspired vision is how you are creating your life. Where you are giving your attention is where you are giving your power, and that is what you are causing yourself to experience. So, this video that I did this morning, this Purpose Prosperity Index, it's a way of assessing where your level of power is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah.
So I look at, first I walk you through determining what your index is, and then I assess it, like if you're this level, this level, this level, this level. And I want to share this video with everyone watching this who's interested. So I don't have it, I don't remember if I uploaded it yet. It's not ready right now, but I guess I would invite people. Okay, well, let's do it this way. Just have a little fun with this. What were the three most important insights from our conversation today? If people email me their three top insights from this, I would love to give them this Purpose Prosperity Index video that I created this morning.
So what is your email, Dan? So we can, that you want to get this. So if anybody wants to send you an email.
The email is dan@canservative.com. It's like conservative with an A, canservative.com.
Oh.
I don't know if I can type that in the chat or something, but
No, perhaps.
there it is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dot connector. Got it. Thank you. dan@canservative.com. So if you just,
Thank you.
yeah, I would like to share that with people. And if they also, if it would be beneficial for them to have me guide them through holding their inspired vision as their total focus, I created a course called the 7-Day Infinite Wealth Challenge, and I would be happy to share that as well with people.
Wow, you've just been busy putting all kinds of things together, haven't you? That's just wonderful. 7 days infinite. What was that again?
The 7-Day Infinite Wealth Challenge.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Did we put Have we put that up? Can you put that up for us, Christine? Thank you. Thank you. Um, oh, we got to put it up like a .com thing, right? Or
Should I give the link to
well,
that?
yes, yes. If you can put it, you can put the link in the private chat, and then I can put it over into
Okay.
the restream chat. Oh, wait a minute, she got it already.
Oh, okay.
She's good. I tell you what, she's really good. She's fast too. Thank you,
It's
dot
it's a
connector.
it's a specific page off of the infinitewealthalliance.com, which is /challenge.
Oh, after that .com, there should be
Yeah,
challenge/challenge.
right.
Okay.
infinitewealthalliance.com /challenge.
Okay. So if you can just add the slash and challenge. Um, oh, there we go. Okay.
That's the direct link for anyone who wants to be part of the class,
Okay.
the 7-day Infinite Wealth Challenge.
Okay. Is there a charge for the class?
No,
That always
it's
helps.
I think there's a dot after the before the slash.
Is that correct? I hope. Yeah.
Yes.
.com.
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay. All right. We got it then. That one is the one you want.
I think it's a good way for people to recognize the power that they have and to choose their focus and to hold that focus, because that's how they're creating their lives.
Okay. That's really important, because I think one of the things that has happened, and I feel that we've had a lot of people about, emphasizing to people, you got to do the work, and people are wondering, I don't know what the work is. How do I do the work? Or how do I do, what can I do? That kind of thing. And they're just baffled as to what people mean when they're saying that. And I can really appreciate that, because I've learned a lot over the years doing what I'm doing right now. And so I always want to be as fair as I possibly can be, so that people that are in the beginning stages have some tools that they can use, and that will help them get where they want to go. And you know and starting to be able to recognize how powerful they really are. Your thoughts matter, and so do your feelings. But I'd like to tell people that your feelings usually reside in your body, and your body is the one that is full of programs. So you have to be careful with that, and you need to become aware of those programs by really evaluating yourself and what programs you might be running that you have picked up as a child, as an adult, at a workplace, at a religion, wherever, and start recognizing and see if it's really what resonates with you today. And my guess is it probably isn't, because it's something more than likely that's disempowering, because that's the way we were programmed.
I think if we remember those two questions, first of all, the underlying knowing is that everything that happens to you is for your betterment.
Yes, that's important.
So recognizing that and then taking ownership of that. Why did I create this? Because I created it, so that means I can change it. It's within my power, and I am the only person who is responsible for my actions based on my thoughts. And then the second question is, okay, so why did I create this? And the second question is, what lessons is it meant to teach me? And then go deep within that. It's kind of like peeling away the layers of an onion. So at first it might be, well, like the example of, I remember the earlier question we had about light worker burnout. Okay, why do I feel burned out? Okay, why? Well, let's look at that as the example of that. Okay, so what? Why did I create this? What lessons is it meant to teach me? Okay, this is for my betterment. So how is this meant to better me? Why did I create this? Okay, maybe it's because I was feeling unloved. Maybe I have some kind of a undeserving program within me. Maybe I feel like I'm unworthy of being loved. well, that's interesting. Where would that have come from in my life? Well, I was always trying to get my mom's love. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that I needed my mom's love. Okay. Well, then, so you just keep on going and peeling away the layers. If it was, I'm so burned out, and yet really underneath that was, I'm trying to impress my mom or get my mom's approval. That's important to recognize. And it's so much deeper than that. And then you see, wow, my mom did the best she could with what she had. And then my source is my center and my connection with the divine. That's all the love that I need. That's like the wellspring of infinite love. And that's where I'm giving my attention now. And that's such a higher level of love and bliss and acknowledgement and beauty. That's the source of what really
Right.
is. And my mom was just, she tried her best, and she
She was
didn't
as
have connection.
programmed as anybody else,
Exactly.
which is something we always have to consider. And compassion in our life for others is really important, and that's when our service to others. Because sometimes, if you can just smile at somebody and make their day, seriously.
That
Um,
reminds me, Gail, of when I was the assistant managing editor at the last newspaper where I worked. One day I was walking home from work for lunch, and a woman walking toward me just gave me a very genuine, sincere smile. And I was just so on clouds just from that smile. And that inspired me to create something I called Touch Someone's Life Today, where one small gesture of love for another
small,
person can change the whole course of human history. I mean, this was about a year before Pay It Forward came out.
yeah, small acts of kindness do wonders.
Yes, and what a way to live, because then you're aligned with your reason for being. Anytime you honor who you are, you feel good, and that is its own reward. You're not attached to the outcome. You're not doing it to get anything. You're just being fragrant and beautiful like the rose.
It's just like it. I'd like to thank people out there who have sent me cards and telling me that they've learned things and that they so much appreciate the different guests and shows that I have. And I'm sure I'm going to get some for you, Dan. But anyway, I just want to thank every one of you. It's not with me. It's not just about the money, but the money certainly does help because everything costs. But at the same time, when I get stuff like that, it just makes my day. It really does. It just makes me look harder and find someone else that's wonderful that can be helpful out there because I learn here too. I'm no better than anybody else as far as I'm concerned. And I'm here to learn and I'm here to have you learn with me. So please be aware of that and know that.
And
So
thank you very much for the work you do, Gail. I think we all are applauding you because you're making a difference. You're sharing something of importance to every one of us. Even, I mean, you're sharing your own insights and wisdom, and that's such a beautiful thing. You are a gift.
it's so funny because I remember when I was younger, a long time ago, I was involved with someone making a video production called Beauty Lies Cultural Ideals and Eating Disorders.
Mm-hmm.
Which was actually eventually aired on PBS. And I remember saying at one point in the video that I was here, I wanted to make a difference. And and this is just the way that I found somehow through I don't know what you call this broadcasting or making videos. I don't know, but anyway, either way, it's something that I really enjoy doing, and when people are happy with it, it just makes my day. That's all I can say. It really does. And so thank you to everyone out there who's ever sent a card, letter, or whatever, or even a donation, because that means you appreciate it as well. So thank you so much. And gratitude is an important part of our life too.
Gratitude and appreciation are opening to receive and to flow because everything the in breath and the out breath. You cannot breathe in without breathing out. You cannot give without receiving as well, because everything is in flow. And that reminds me of how, like, I learned this from Osho, I think. He talks about like a fish doesn't recognize it's in water until it steps away from that perspective. Like if it goes out of water, then it recognizes, like, oh, I need to be in water. Just as you are surrounded by, I call it grace, or it's really prana, vital life force. Here's, or you could call it God, or you could call it love or prosperity. It's like we're surrounded, we're swimming in prosperity or grace or love or flow, and it's just a matter of opening to that. And we open to that by such things as gratitude, purpose, honor, integrity, being, giving to others, honoring our reason for being of service to others. There's no
Exactly.
lack. There's no real lack. There's only the perception or the fear, which is just, again, a reflection of the perception of being disconnected.
Okay. Well, we have someone that's asking you a specific question. Hey, Dan, in your opinion, what are the best intentions to cast before sleep at night and once we awaken in the morning? Do you have?
I like that question. I like to think of our subconscious mind as the research librarian. Like if you go up to the research department at your library and you say, find everything you can in relationship to scarcity or COVID or self empowerment or dharma or honoring my purpose or my vision. I mean, that's what happens when you give your attention to something. You're instructing your subconscious mind that this is what's most important to me. This is what I'm instructing you to find everything you can related to this focus that I'm making my top priority. That means something you want or something you don't want. If you're using your power as master of manifestation correctly, then you're giving your power. Again, it's like 100% of your focus determines 100% of your life. So when you're dedicated to your purpose, to your divine duty, destiny, and dharma,
I like
then
that.
that's 100% of your focus. And then you're saying, you're commanding to your unconscious mind, this is what's most important to me. This is what I'm instructing you to create more of in my life. So before you go to sleep, well, let me put it this way as a little tangent here. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Ramana Maharshi, whom I've studied since 1999. It's called Advaita Vedanta. Non-duality is the philosophy. Well, anyway, whoever this sage was, he said that the last thought you have at the end of your life determines where you go after you shed this body or this clothing that you wear that is your life. So when you fixate your focus on God, or in this case, in the example, it was Rama, I think, when you focus on Rama your whole life, then when you die, you go to Rama or God or Brahman or
What is
whatever.
Rama? I'm sorry for my
It's
ignorance.
it's one of the, well, in, this is kind of loosely in Hinduism, but it's really the philosophy that matters. It's not the religion. Rama is, so the deities in India, they represent characteristics.
Oh, okay.
Like Ganesh represents prosperity. I don't remember. I mean, there's like
Okay.
thousands of, they think of, people who don't know think of them as thousands of gods. It's really one God with different attributes. So
Oh, okay.
the
Interesting.
main point is, if you focus on God and you live your whole life as a devotion to God, then your only thought is on God, and then you go to God after
Hmm.
this brief blink of
And
an eye ends.
yeah, I've had people say, and I'm just going to bring this up real quick, and that is God is a rather general term, basically. And I like to look at it as prime creator, source, um, because it's more specific than God. That's all. And not that, even though people probably most of the time mean the exact same thing of what I just said, but if you want to be more specific when you speak in that regard, you might want to use source, prime creator. There's a few other ones I can't think of right now, but anyway, you know what I mean.
Yes.
And so back to what you were saying about the subconscious mind and retraining it. Basically, what you're asking before you go to bed is what, say there's a particular program, like what's going on with me as far as lack or something on that order. Is that, I'm not sure, I want to be sure I'm clear on what you're saying.
Right. This was just meant to be a tangent about the last thought you give your attention before you die. So if you just focus on God
Okay, yeah.
or
I see what you mean.
Brahman, then that's where you would go.
Okay.
So you could say the last thought you have before you go to sleep at night is where you go when you sleep. And
That's what I
so,
was getting at anyway. So,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
but to be more specific to the question about what are the best intentions to have before you go to sleep and when you awaken, think of your mind as going from beta, like active level of awakeness,
Hmm.
to alpha or delta or theta. And so this is more like when your subconscious mind is more dominant or more, well, it's always more dominant.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Think of yourself as the captain and then your subconscious mind as the crew of your ship or your boat. And the captain is the one giving the orders. And so everything, so think of like that research librarian, it's always, or your computer, think of it like the computer that runs your operating system or your body. And so it's always listening to everything that you're giving your attention. And then it's treating what you're choosing to give your attention because you're a master of manifestation. So everything you are giving your attention, everything you're making a focus, that is a command for it to create further in your life, to make stronger, to find everything it can related to that focus, because you're meant to only give your attention to what you want. So use this way this works when you go to sleep, and you could, like, whatever, like, let's say you need to make more money, or you want or you choose to make more money, is it's more empowering and coming from I am the commander of my destiny. And so before you go to sleep, then whatever this focus is that you want your unconscious mind or subconscious mind to create everything it can and to make stronger in your life, to find all the relationships in your life related to that focus. So then you ask an empowering question, such as, which opportunity would give me the greatest, okay, let's put it this way. How can I be of greater service to the people I'm meant to reach? How can I have a greater impact on the audience I serve? What are all the ways, or what's the most important way I can move forward and have the impact I'm meant to have with my life? Or let's even be more specific, like if you're a coach, how can I what is the best use of my time in terms of reaching the right people who are having relationship problems right now? So to get very specific, and then you meditate on that question, and that becomes what you are instructing your subconscious mind to create. So then, and then you can also add, when I awaken at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m., whenever you arise, then give me the answers to this issue. And then you have a notepad by your bed. And so you're commanding, you're the commander, you're the captain of your ship, and your subconscious mind is the crew. So it will mull over the answers, and then it will honor your command and give you the results. And it might be in the form of a dream, it might be ideas that you have, and maybe just by you pausing and focusing that's where you're giving your power on that question. Maybe you'll get the answers immediately and then you can write them down and then act on them. And then the same thing in the morning when you're first awakening, that's when you're most receptive. That's when you're most connected with, you could say, the divine or your unconscious mind. And then so you meditate on that question: how can I have the greatest impact on the most people today? Or how can I get more clients who are looking for the coaching work that I do? And then you just meditate on that, and you have that space and that quietness, or that space of time when you awaken for that focus, because you're not quite awake yet, so you're able to access so much more resourcefulness, resources, ingenuity. That's where the magic is, your
Yeah,
creativity, your yeah.
definitely. Yes. Well, well, Dan, I can't thank you enough for coming on my show and sharing these wonderful, wonderful things. And perhaps we should do it again. And we'll see if people would like that. Now, I have somebody, maybe there is one more question. Is it wrong to want to? Let me put this up. Okay. We'll answer this question too. As long as somebody asks a question, we can keep going a little bit. But it's coming up on 1:45 minutes almost. So, anyway, is it wrong to want to manifest things that involve certain people, like this person loves me, that person will give me money, this person will hire me, that person will do things my way? I don't know. Glad
Well,
you're answering that question and not I.
I look at it as where you give your attention is where you're giving your power. So, do you want to give your attention to just one small, like 1 degree of the possible universe? Or do you want to just trust that I'm getting the money in the most harmonious way? I'm enjoying the love of my life without limiting how that will come to you.
Ah, yes.
Why would you want to limit the unlimited? How could you even hope to do that? How would you how could you even think to limit yourself when you're unlimited? So just trusting and knowing that the right things will happen at the right time in the best way for you and everyone else. Because you
Okay.
can't limit the unlimited. It doesn't even compute.
It's like in the unified field, we have unlimited possibilities that we just have to learn how to access.
Yes,
And
exactly.
and when you get inspired, just for people's information, I've science has proven this, that when you get inspired, you need to act on it. It might take up to 3 days or 72 hours, they say, for the your body's DNA to build the antennas to draw that to you. So I found that absolutely fascinating myself. And so bear that in mind. But then once it has been drawn to you, you need to act on it. Because if you don't, and it's in the unified field, someone else will get the same message and they will act on it.
Exactly. It's all about getting into action and staying in action. Like they say, emotion is energy in motion. Well, you have to be in motion, you have to take action. This
Mhm.
is not just mental entertainment. This is about you honoring your reason for being, fulfilling your duty, your destiny, your dharma, having the impact which is uniquely yours to have. And that's honoring the creator or the designer or the, like Napoleon Hill calls it, infinite intelligence.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, I've heard that one before too. David Icke frequently says infinite possibilities.
Hmm.
And we have been raised to consider ourselves so limited, and we're so unlimited. We just got to open ourselves up to our true selves.
And that's who we are. So that feels right to us. We know whether we're on track or whether we lost our focus, And if you lost your focus or when you do, just gently, lovingly bring yourself back. It's kind of like that old adage that like an airplane going from Los Angeles to New York is off course 98% of the time. It's just like a degree. Oh, wait, whoops, I'm going to go over here a little. Oh, whoops. Oh, I know. So just course correct as you go along.
Mhm.
Just that's just requiring mindfulness and focus and consistency, persistence. Just stay the course. You know where you're going. That's your
Never
dharma.
give up. Never
Never
give up.
give up.
That's some good advice we've gotten along the way here. And
Hmm.
so, oh, thank you, Dan. This has been wonderful. And I'm sure it'll be very inspiring to people. And I think we'll call it a wrap for today. And I can't thank you enough. You're,
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and for being
yes,
present with us. It's so
yes.
delicious being
Thank
here.
you, people, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon, I hope. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.